Greetings from the other side. Today we begin as the Invisible Man. Welcome to our session on Go and Preach. Today I want to talk about the use of gospel tracts. I am a fan of gospel tracts. I love gospel tracts. Now I've had the privilege of teaching a few classes on evangelism, and when I teach, my students often get weary of me saying that statement. I love gospel tracts. They are a wonderful tool in the hand of an evangelistically minded person. George Whitefield, the famous evangelist from England, is said to have been converted by reading a tract. A gospel tract is a small booklet, or a leaflet, or nowadays they make them on the size of a business card, that has an explanation of the gospel on the back. Tracts have been used for centuries. The roots of them can be traced all the way back even before Gutenberg's printing press, where the Bible was first mass-produced. There are so many different kinds of tracts and types of tracts. There are tracts for nearly every occasion. You can get them printed with your church's name on them. You can get Christmas tracts or Easter tracts, or just everyday kind of tracts. I have some favorite ones that I'm going to recommend to you and as we go. But firstly, I want to show you how we can use them to be a witness of the salvation that comes through faith in Jesus Christ in our sphere of influence on a daily basis. So I've done this in my book. I've listed a few rules of engagement when it comes to using tracts. I have about five rules that I'm going to give to you, and hopefully this can be a blessing to you as you step out to share your faith. And rule number 1, carry tracts with you everywhere you go if possible. I have made this a custom in my life that I often, maybe not all the time, but I used to do it a lot more, but I would carry tracts with me in my pocket almost everywhere that I go. And you can keep them in your car, in your pocket, in your wallet, just about anywhere. Carry them with you, and you will find that God is going to give you multiple opportunities along the way to share the tract with other people. That's rule number 1. Carry tracts with you everywhere you go. Rule number 2, ask God to give you an opportunity to give the tract to an open heart. When we first start carrying tracts around with us, many times we struggle with fear, and we're afraid, we have the fear of man, and we don't actually want to give them away to real people. And that's okay. I would encourage you as you first start out, as you're learning to be a witness, to take the tracts and leave them in places where people will find them. In the beginning, when I first started, when God really started to get a hold of me and handing out tracts, it might have been kind of funny to watch me as I would sneak around places, making sure nobody was looking around pillars, kind of like 007 or on Mission Impossible. You're looking around, making sure nobody can see you, and then sliding the tract on a table and running and hiding quickly so nobody can see you. And that's fine when you first start out. But I want you to grow some courage and ask God to give you some courage where you can actually begin to hand them to real live people as you're walking and talking and living your everyday life. And a great way to get somebody to take a tract is to go up to somebody and say, "Hey, did you get one of these?" And just hand it to them. And quite often they will take it and say, "Oh, what is it?" And that would be a great opportunity to have a conversation about the gospel. And that is actually rule number 3. Use the tract as an opportunity to preach the gospel to someone, not as an excuse to avoid preaching the gospel to someone. Those of people who know me and have followed me around in some evangelistic endeavors, they will notice that this is one of the main ways that I use to open the door of a conversation with a complete stranger. It's one of the main ways that I use to begin a conversation. As I give them a track, I say, hey, did you see this? Or did you get one of these? And then they inevitably ask, oh, what is it? And then I can say, oh, it is a gospel track. And then that right away, it lets the guard down of a person who maybe would be a little skeptical about talking to you about Jesus, like immediately. But perhaps they would be less intimidated by just giving them something. Say, hey, did you get one of these? And then they ask the question, oh, what is it? And I say, oh, it is a gospel tract. Has anyone ever taken the time to show you how you can be sure you're going to heaven when you die? So I've used the tract not as an excuse to run away and not preach the gospel, but I've actually used it as an open door to have a conversation with somebody about their salvation. Amen. So that's how I like to use them. Preaching really means proclaiming the gospel. It doesn't mean that you have to yell and scream on a street corner, but preaching can be something that happens in a conversational tone over the little message, over a little gospel tract. So I like to use them to share the gospel with another person. So again, what I like to do is I hand them a tract and say, hey, did you ever get one of these? Or have you seen one of these? And when they ask me what it is, then I say, it is a gospel tract. Has anyone ever taken the time to show you how you can be sure you're going to heaven when you die? It's a great opportunity. Now, there are some tracts that I don't have one with me, but there's one tract that I really, really like. It's a great interactive tool. It's called the Smart Card, and on the center of it, it actually has a fingerprint or a box, and it has instructions on the front that says, place your thumb here for 8 seconds or 15 seconds, and if it turns green, it means you are good enough to go to heaven when you die, or good enough, you're a good person and able to go to heaven. So your person will stick their thumb on there, and they will bob their head as they silently count to 8 or 15, and then they'll take away their finger. And the thing is, it doesn't turn green for anybody. They say, oh, it didn't turn green. What does that mean? You see, now it is a great, great opportunity because they've asked me. They've given me permission to speak into their life about whatever this thing is. And so I say, well, that's because you are just like everybody else. None of us are good enough to make it to heaven on our own. That's why Jesus had to come and die. And many times I would leave the conversation right there. I've planted a seed. And on the back of the tract is an explanation of the gospel and how somebody can be saved. But if the person, and I have to read people a little bit as I have these conversations. If the person seems genuinely interested, then I will take it a step further. Be like, well, what do you think? Do you think you're a good person? Can I give you a little test? Have you ever told a lie? And obviously, everybody has told a lie. They say, yes, I've told a lie. Well, what do we call people who tell lies? They are a liar. Okay. Have you ever stolen anything? Even the smallest little thing? Well, yes, I have. Well, what do we call people who steal things? Almost every time I ask that question, the person responds with a stealer. And I say, no, not a Pittsburgh Steeler. We call them a thief. It says, oh, yeah, a thief. So you're a liar and you're a thief. Now, Jesus said, if you look at a woman with lust in your heart, it's the same as committing adultery with her. Have you ever looked at somebody with lust in your heart? And the person will inevitably say, well, yes, I have. So Jesus says you are an adulterer. So by your own admission, you are a liar, a thief, and an adulterer at heart. If you stand before God on Judgment Day and are judged according to that law, are you going to be innocent or guilty? Inevitably, everybody says guilty. And if there's only two choices, heaven or hell, where are you going? Well, I'm going to hell. And what I do is I share the gospel in that way. I've actually gotten them to declare with their own mouth. I didn't judge them. I didn't tell them you're going to hell, but they said it with their own mouth. I'm guilty. I'm going to hell. I'm a liar. I'm a thief. I'm an adulterer. So I use the tract as an open door to share the gospel. It's a great, great tool. If you haven't If you haven't discovered this, I really encourage you to get some. I actually have, and I can give you the link. It's Bazoogan Track Club. I'll type it in at the bottom when we air this on Facebook. But you can actually get 30 free tracks the size of a business card every month. They will send them right to your house, and you are just forced to sign an agreement that you're going to give them away every month, 30 free tracks. So if you're looking for a way to get involved in track ministry and you haven't, you can do this for free. You don't even have to spend any money. Amen. Rule number 4. There are times when we cannot talk to somebody about the gospel with the track. So it's acceptable to leave the track with somebody and just understand that you don't have time, but they can read it later. And in addition to that, we can leave them. Rule number 4 is we can leave them in places where people will be inclined to read them. So think about places in life, your everyday life, where people are sitting or standing still for a number of minutes at a time, and they will be bored with nothing to do. Now, obviously, in our cell phone generation, people are very quick to pick up their phones, but perhaps if there was an attractive track sitting there, maybe they would pick it up and read it. Now, some of my favorite places are waiting rooms, hospital waiting rooms, doctor's office waiting room, the dentist, bathroom stalls, public bathroom stalls. Great place to leave tracks. People read them. I'm guilty of actually going into the supermarket and sliding them into beer cases right down the center. Great place for people to find them when they're enjoying a cold one on a hot day. They find a little message from the Lord Jesus. Interesting. Anyway, find them. Find places where you can leave them, where people will be inclined to read them. Rule number 5, and this is very, very important. Can't emphasize this enough. I have found in my life that there are some very interesting tracks out there. And some of them, I hate to say it, but they're actually filled with conspiracy theories and actually filled with things that are not even true. So rule number 5 is find a good track that you can use. What I mean by that is read it. Make sure that there's a clear presentation of the gospel, and read it and make sure it's not filled with things that are not true or conspiracy theories or naming, the Pope as the Antichrist, whatever. Please read them and make sure that it's not, something super, super controversial, but something that tells the truth and presents the gospel. Now, there are a few that I know are good and that I use all the time over the years. I've gone back to a number that I use on a regular basis because I know that they're good. So I'm going to recommend a few. Number 1, if you are willing to spend some money on tracks, go to livingwaters.com. It is the ministry of Ray Comfort. He is a great evangelist, a great equipper in evangelism, and he has designed a number of his own tracks, and many of them are very interactive. And my favorite one is the $1 Million Bill. It actually looks like money, and it's got $1 million on it, but it has the gospel message presented on the back. And I use those all the time, especially going through checkouts or drive-thrus. A great question is, hey, do you have change for one of these? And I have had people look at it and their eyes get really big and say, oh my gosh, are you serious? I say, no, but that's your tip for the day. Go ahead and keep it and check it out when you get a chance. Now, if I have time to talk to them, I will actually ask the question, has anyone ever asked you the $1 million question? If you were to die today, are you going to heaven? It's a great opportunity to begin a conversation about the gospel. But if you don't have time, or if you're in a drive-thru, you don't want to hold up the whole line, they can take the $1 million bill and they can read it. So there's that one. And I like the Smart Card, which is the one I explained already, that has a fingerprint or a square on it that you put your finger on, count for 15 seconds. It's very interactive. It lends itself well to sparking a conversation about the gospel. There's a couple more. Something to think about. This is also Living Waters. On the front of it, it says, something to think about. And there's a picture of a monkey scratching his head. And it's a great way to start a conversation with somebody. Hey, can I give you something to think about? They say, oh yeah, sure, what is it? And then I reach in my pocket and I pull this out and I hand it to them. And they look at it and it says, something to think about. And so it gives them an opportunity to actually have a conversation. Oh, well, what is it? Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. That is a gospel tract. Has anyone ever taken the time to show you from the Bible how you can be sure you're going to heaven when you die? Another one that I like to use is called Discover 4 Simple Truths. This is also from Ray Comfort at Living Waters. It is a clear explanation of the gospel in 4 simple truths. There are many others that you can find. They're colorful. They're interactive. Billy Graham has one called Steps to Peace with God, which is a great tract that I use. Bill Bright, the founder of Campus Crusade for Christ, had one called The 4 Spiritual Laws. I like that one, but it's big, it's long, so it doesn't lend itself well to having a quick conversation. So that's one you want to give to somebody who has a lot of time to take it home and read it. Perhaps you've heard of Chick Tracts. Chick Tracts actually are a little cartoon. It's a little booklet. It's like a little comic book that actually explains the gospel. There's one of his that I really like. It's called This Was Your Life. It's a very, very popular, very famous. It goes through a scenario about somebody who dies and faces Judgment Day. And I recommend it. Be careful with Chick Tracts, just between you and me. There are some that are very conspiracy theory laden. So if you stick to that one, you'll be pretty safe. But I just want to encourage you, if you would like to get involved in track ministry, visit Bezugen Track Club. You can type it into your browser, Bezugen, Tract, T-R-A-C-T, Club. Bezugen Track Club, they have lots of tracts that you can purchase. They're the size of business cards with the gospel on the back. And they have a tract club that you can join. They give you 30 free tracts every month that you can pass out. And they also have some $1 million bills, and they have some like the smart card where you can put your thumb on it. They were greatly influenced by Ray Comfort and his methods of evangelism. So you'll find the message will be very, very similar, only you don't have to pay for the tracts, which some of us, where income is a problem, that means a lot to us. So thank you very much. Please get some tracts, get involved. It's a great way for you to share your faith and get involved in evangelism. If you'd like to know some more information, please reach out to us. We'd love to come to your church and maybe do some training or teaching about evangelism. And there's always, this book is available if you're interested. Please come back. We're not done yet with Go and Preach, so we'll see you again next time. God bless.